This is no ordinary wooden bench. It's a special place for folks like 92-year-old Irene, who like to take life at their own pace. She walks here from home whenever she feels up to it. She says there's nowhere else she'd rather be. She loves the birdsong, the glimpse of wild animals, nature at its finest. But her peace here could soon be short-lived. This narrow road in the heart of Byers Gill countryside could soon be choked with the dust and air pollution from heavy lorries making thousands of relentless journeys. Diesel fumes instead of clean, fresh air. The clattering of construction drowning out the dawn chorus. These green fields bursting with crops could become an industrial eyesore. Irene's special place would be nothing more than a fond memory. And that would be shameful.
Welcome to the ancient villages of Bishopton and just a little further down the road, Great Stainton, here on the border of Durham and the Tees Valley.
We take pride in our properties. It's a conservation area, and that's why many of us choose to live here and the surrounding villages of Brafferton, Stillington and Little Stainton. Until now. Some people say they are thinking about moving out because the villages, they fear, are about to come under siege. It's nothing new, of course. Our scheduled ancient monument, the medieval Mott and Bailey Castle, was created to repel marauders. Today's enemy is far less violent, but equally as hostile. A huge invasion of solar farms, and make no mistake, an invasion is exactly what it is. If plans are passed, our villages will be engulfed. There are plans for a staggering 11 developments and 90+ associated battery units concentrated within a 5-mile radius. That's the equivalent of 2,042 football pitches. It's the biggest cluster of village solar farms in the UK. Our homes and primary school will be encircled. And let's not forget the associated paraphernalia such as 8-metre-tall transformers, towering communication masts, 2.5-metre security fences along our walkways, service road and tracks. That's not to mention potential damage to our trees. We've tied ribbons to some of those at risk from cable excavation work. Great Stainton, the highest aspect of land in the district, proudly boasts the most spectacular panoramic views in the Tees Valley, if not the entire northeast of England. But this magnificent vista from Rosebery Topping in the east to the Vale of York to the south will be scarred on 3 sides with blankets of solar panels. Some have likened the proposed security fences and lighting to the creation of a detention camp.
Before we go any further, we ask, is that fair and is it reasonable? What have we done to deserve the destruction of our countryside and our views? And shouldn't our children have the right to look out over open countryside and fields rather than acres of ugly glass, which that will be? Incidentally, some landowners live miles away.
And before we're accused of being NIMBYs, not in my backyard, let's put the record straight. We're CAMBYs, care about my backyard. Some solar farms just outside the villages have already been approved. Construction has started. Others are generating power. We say enough is enough.
One of the criteria for approval of planning permission is that the proposals must have community support. So, we surveyed hundreds of people who live in our villages, and we found only 2 households were actually in favour of the proposals. Most were dead against. That's hardly community support, is it? They said there were too many farms proposed for one concentrated area.
They'll swallow up valuable and rich agricultural land at a time when the government is prioritising onshore food security. 10,000 tonnes of high-quality crops will be lost. Any tinkering with the classification of the arable land to support the application is nonsense. It's been growing crops for centuries. Concerned residents from throughout the area met in Bishopton Village Hall in April to give the then leader of Darlington Borough Council, Jonathan Dalston, the opportunity to hear their objections firsthand. And they didn't hold back with passionate pleas to save all our villages from the solar panel invasion. We learned from Councillor Dalston that Michael Gove, Secretary of State for Levelling Up, Housing and Communities, has been briefed about the objections. Some would argue this is not levelling up, it's just levelling. The sheer scale of all Byers Gill proposals will impact all recreational areas used for cycling, walking, horse riding and exercising dogs. Our country liveries will lose appeal. These fields are home to wildlife such as deer, badgers and foxes. They're a migratory home for thousands of Canada geese and the protected lapwing. And our narrow and winding back road is ridiculously unsuitable for the proposed constant heavy construction traffic. Great Stainton is a tourist hotspot for walkers who lose themselves in this beautiful countryside. Historians too visit this ancient Roman crossroad site, once travelled by the Prince Bishops. Stainton is still part of the County Palatine of Durham and an escape from the industry and chemical works of Teesside. And we're already doing our bit for clean energy. Our once clear rural horizons are already cluttered with wind turbines. There would have been more, but local planners restricted or refused some applications, recognising the need to retain the local character of the land.
I've been involved with a group of local residents to build an objection to the solar farm, although we're trying not to call it a farm because that doesn't really describe what it is. We're calling it a solar power station because that's what it is. We're objecting to it wholeheartedly. I think the majority feeling is that we're objecting to it, and we're trying to raise awareness of what it's going to look like.
We object to the fact that it's going to encircle the whole village. We're all for green energy and we've all done our bit in this village, and now all at once these developers are coming along and they're just destroying our quality of life. This village is going to be totally encircled by solar panels, and that's basically the top and bottom of it.
I totally object to it, and for many reasons I object to it. It's going to have a significant impact on the wildlife, the ecosystem around here. It's going to cause immeasurable damage to the roads. There's protected species of animals and birds here. I just don't think it's good.
I think the plans are absolutely awful. We have a beautiful bit of countryside around here and it's going to be spoiled forever, and I think that's quite disgraceful.
We live in a beautiful part of the countryside. Every morning I wake up, I see wild birds, we see deer, we see hares. There's going to be none of that. I wake up every morning and I look out and I'm so proud to be living where I live, and that's going to go.
Behind me is the view that I see every day. It's an idyll place. We've got hares playing in the field, we've got badgers, we have ducks coming on the pond. We're just devastated by this. This has come out of the blue, and it's just horrendous, the idea that we're going to be looking at a sea of solar panels. I can't think of the words to describe it.
We're not against the idea of solar panels, solar heating, solar energy, but what we are against is the magnitude of the planned solar farms in this vicinity. JPM are the people putting these plans forward at Byers Gill. It seems to me that anything that produces over 50 megawatts has to be referred to the Secretary of State, which indicates that must be a significant solar farm. In our case, they're talking about 180 megawatt, which is 3 times bigger than anything that needs in isolation, referring to the Secretary of State. That's an abuse of a very conservative conservation area, which I'm strongly against.
My main concern, one of the main concerns is Mill Lane. Apparently they're proposing that they're going to send 100 heavy goods vehicles down the lane. The lane isn't big enough for 2 cars to pass, never mind a heavy goods vehicle. So you think, what's going to happen here?
I think it's unbelievable it's even being considered, because if it had been housing or something else in the area, it would have been turned down immediately. But because it's solar farms, it's somehow considered reasonable that it's taken up a load of farmland.
I'm not against green energy. I'm not against solar energy. I'm against the total destruction of the landscape and the destruction of the wildlife, the biodiversity. This is a green and pleasant area, and it'll turn it into an industrial area in my view.
Well, my thoughts are about our village in particular. It's a conservation village which has evolved over centuries. You can read about it hundreds of years back. And quite honestly, industrial size solar farms are going to absolutely ruin the area completely and take away valuable agricultural land in the way, it's just ridiculous.
That's what the people of Bishopton and Great Stainton think, and their voices should be heard and respected. The Byers Gill proposals are nothing more than gross industrialisation, turning some of the prettiest villages in the UK into power stations. In our view, that's completely unacceptable.